Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I hope my feed is showing up correctly. I had a little bit of networking difficulties earlier today. But why don't you guys sing along with me and gesture a dislike because it brought me a lot of good luck in the past. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So I've been off of caffeine for 4 months now, but I plan on going back. In fact, I'm going to do it live on this video. And to understand why, we need to revisit why I stopped using caffeine in the first place, and more importantly, why I continued to stay off caffeine for as long as I did. Back in February of this year, I had ordered some tantalum to do an art project. I was going to anodize a plate of tantalum with Mondrian art squares and with word squares, among other things. You guys saw a couple of those. But I wanted to have very steady hands, right? When I was dipping the tantalum plate into the solution, if I'm high on caffeine, right, or I'm putting label paper on the tantalum sheet and I'm high, right, it didn't go very well. I practiced with titanium before I did the tantalum, right? Titanium is very cheap, and it was a good practicing for that. And so I stopped using the caffeine and I ordered the tantalum. Unfortunately, there was a bunch of quiet quitting going on at the time. Post office was delayed. I didn't get the tantalum until weeks later. I got it. I worked with it. You guys saw it. And during the couple of weeks that I didn't use the caffeine, something interesting happened. I was sleeping very well. I didn't toss and turn. In fact, I haven't been tossing and turning for many months. That was the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed was that I was a whole lot less irritable. To give you an example of less irritability, let's talk about today because I ran into a situation today that months earlier could have caused me a lot of drama. I'm interviewing for a job in Central Arizona College. It's in Coolidge, Arizona, about an hour south of here. And today I drove there to for another round of interviews. And while I was there, I wanted to look at some housing there. Part of the reason I want to move there is that the cost of living is a heck of a lot less, right? And so I had gone to roomies.com to talk to a potential roommate. It turns out he's a property manager. He has 3 or 4 houses within that subdivision. So I was going to talk to him. Unfortunately, my meeting at CAC ran late. So I texted him quickly to say, I'm sorry, my meeting's running late. Uh, uh, for some reason, he didn't give me the address right there and then, right, so I could prepare. He said, don't worry about it. Text me when you're done with your meeting. After the meeting was done, I texted him, and he asked me, how close to Coolidge are you? I said, I'm still here. I can head over right now if you have a place. Do you want to meet at your home or at a coffee shop? Either way is fine with me, right? And the guy texted me his address, which is great. I put it into my GPS. Unfortunately, I underestimated how big Coolidge is. It's actually a good 8 miles away. On the GPS, it said it was a 14-minute drive. Now, I could have texted him back and said, it might be 14 minutes, but I thought I would just head there. I was already running late. And as I drive there, he keeps calling the phone. And it's very distracting. I finally had to pull off somewhere to call him. And by the time he picked up, the light had turned green. And all I could scream was, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And somehow I still made it to his place in one piece. And it was at the moment that he was making those nonstop phone calls that I kind of decided that maybe that's not the right place. It was already pretty far in the first place. Actually, 8 miles is not far for Coolidge because it's so flat. I plan, if I do move to his place and work for CAC, I'll probably get a bicycle, actually. I was thinking about that as I was making the trip. If only he had not made those phone calls, 3, 4, 5 in a row, until I literally had to scream at him to stop. I'm driving. a little bit of an etiquette. If somebody tells you they're on their way, stop calling, right? Especially because it's his home, right? Worst case, if I didn't show up at all, he's sitting at home. He works from home apparently. It wasn't even a bother to him. This wasn't even like he was at a coffee shop, right? And he needs to know whether or not I'm coming, right? In that case, even then, give it like 15 minutes at least, right? Okay, so I finally get to his home, and this guy's just really. I have mixed bags about whether or not I want to rent from him. The first thing I noticed is that his home is very well maintained. It doesn't make use of chemicals, right? I have chemical sensitivity. Some people like to use heavy air fresheners, other sorts of chemicals. I didn't notice that in his home. He seems very environmentally conscious as well. He had solar panels on his roof. But then I have mixed feelings because somebody who's going to jump to call 5 times in a row probably would not hesitate to jump to complain 5 times in a row anytime he sees something that might be a little bit off, right? Jump to conclusion kind of mentality, right? So, for example, I lived with, especially if I'm going to live with him, right? I lived with another landlord in the past who got very edgy about uh, uh, doing the dishes or something. Sometimes I need to get something before I go do the dishes, right? If he's in such a hurry to do them, I can't help that, right? Somebody who would call 5 times in a row really has that vibe to me. So I just kind of wrote it off as maybe I got to be extremely careful, even if I do rent from him, right? And maybe we'll put that on the back burner, right? So I told him that the job at CAC isn't really finalized. So I'll let you know soon, but feel free to look around, right? That's what I told him. So I avoided burning that bridge, right? Months ago, when I was high on the caffeine, I likely would have burned that bridge because those things really drive me nuts, right? But so the last 4 months, let me bring up why I'm returning to the caffeine. I'll let you think about it for like a few seconds before I tell you. I'm sleeping better. I'm less irritable. In fact, I can't remember a time in the last 4 months when I tossed and turned. Even when I traveled to Kerrville, Texas, and I was stuck in my car, right? The hotels there were $700 a night. Even then, I didn't toss and turn. In fact, I slept really well, efficiently, because it was on my own timetable. I was sleeping 2, 3 times a day. And altogether, in a 24-hour period, I was only sleeping like 5 hours a day. And I felt very energized, right? And so I'm getting a lot of art done, obviously. The problem is that my concentration and memory have not been 100%. And so my art goes very well. But anything that required my creativity, especially anything logic related, right? The programming the computer games, right? And to a lesser extent, I teach computer science, and I can teach, but I haven't been able to develop course material as much as I had in the past. Right? In the past, I was always eager to write more course material. And the other thing I've noticed is that when I first stopped using the caffeine, something interesting happened. You see, I love intermittent fasting. In the past, the way I would do a fast is that I would guzzle caffeine, right? I can't tell you how many times before 12 o'clock noon I had already guzzled half a gallon of either tea or coffee, right? And that's how I got through the fast. And when I first stopped the caffeine, I wasn't fasting very well, but then I quickly regained my ability to fast 18 hours again. But unfortunately, I never regained that. See, I'm trying to write an AI for the game of Ticket to Ride Paris in commemoration of Mary Curie. She did her research in Paris, obviously. Her 90th anniversary of her death is coming up, and I haven't been able to make headway on that, in large part because of my dulled out creativity ever since. And I've been misplacing a lot of things. Right now, I'm recording this on webcam instead of my. I had a Canon cameras because I lost the camera. I think I misplaced it in the student union, and one of the students took it. And I even offered a reward to just return the SD cards because it was in my backpack. I had 3 or 4 SD cards, and I had no luck, right? But I like to think maybe the student can, or whoever took it, can. It could be a source of inspiration for them. So I'm not too bitter anymore. I was bitter last week, and just little lapses in concentration. I have a coworker who's 60 6 years old, and he says he has senior moments. But ever since I stopped using the caffeine, I almost feel like I have them too. Like my concentration will lapse for 5-10 minutes. Right, I'm going shopping, and my concentration lapses, and all of a sudden I don't know where my credit card is. I forgot to take it out of the machine. Right, or I'm playing at a board game meetup, and all of a sudden it seems like, how did I get to this meetup? Why am I playing backgammon with this guy right here? Just lapses in concentration are what has been getting to me lately, right? And it's not like I go a whole day and not know what I'm doing. I lapse out for 5-10 minutes, in sometimes the most crucial 5-10 minutes, right? I'll be talking to my boss, and all of a sudden I draw a huge blank, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've been doing that. The other thing I know, and this is the last straw that made me really rethink that I want to go back to caffeine, but hopefully in moderation, is that I never got over the loneliness that comes with especially quitting the chocolate. Maybe not so much the tea and coffee, but the chocolate especially, right? So I go to a meetup, and for some reason, people aren't in the mood to do whatever I wanted to do. And in the past, that was much more tolerable. Ever since the stopping the caffeine, it hasn't been. Now there's a reason why I picked today to go back to the caffeine. The main thing that was benefiting from my not using caffeine was my art projects. And right now I have no more storage space for my art until I get rid of some of my stuff anyway. And so without further ado, my favorite chocolate bar, and for once, I can say that at least we didn't have any inflation on this stuff. It's still $3.99, still the same price I paid 4 months ago. Too bad I can't say the same thing about other things, right? Chocolate hasn't been, I guess gas prices have kind of gone down in recent times, but a lot of foods that I actually need are inflating, right? Let's see how it tastes after all these months. I can't wait to see. It definitely has a much more body to it because I haven't had it for 4 months, right? This is let's see, I started eating baking chocolate when I was 16 years old. So before this time, the longest I ever went without it was probably when I was traveling, right? You can't really find this stuff in Taiwan. I was in Taiwan for a little bit over a month one time. So aside from this time, but during the time I was in Taiwan, I was drinking a lot of tea, obviously. So, um, anyways, I hope to limit myself to 2 ounces at most of baking chocolate a day. During the time I was eating it 3 months ago, it was comprising over 50% of my calories, if you can believe it, at one point. And obviously, it created a lot of drama. But at the same time, right now, my workload is lighter. I mean, I still have to grade stuff, but the teaching part of it is lighter. So my sleep schedule isn't all that crucial, and my storage unit is full of art anyway. So I'll probably use the caffeine for some in moderation. I've kind of I kind of thought it through. I'll eat baking chocolate, but I'll stay away from the liquid caffeines because that's a great way to overdose the liquid stuff. And so the other thing I thought of was that it's summertime here in Phoenix. I have a bad habit of accidentally leaving chocolate in my hot car and making a mess out of myself. So I'm thinking limiting myself to only having one bar on hand at a time, right? I live very close to a grocery store anyway. Not only to keep my intake in check, but also to avoid having a disaster in my car. Anyway, continue to pray for me by leaving a Peter dislike on this video. I want to get back to focus on my project for Mary Curry, and also having fewer of these. I wouldn't call them senior moments, but gappy attention span kind of issues, like these moments, right? I can't tell you, I don't really have a time when I just couldn't focus all day. No, I don't have that. It's just that my attention cuts in and out. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I leave stuff somewhere, right? I almost lost, uh, actually, this was many years ago. I was flying to Amsterdam for a conference, and I almost lost my laptop at the airport X-ray machine. I was so focused on something else at the machine, and oh, I know what I was. I was arguing with somebody. I wanted to opt out of the body scanner, and the TSA agent gave me a lot of flack. He was trying to quiet quit his job, so he wanted to convince me why I shouldn't opt out. And this other customer also wanted to argue with me, and so we got into a heated discussion that ended up. He's a physicist as well, and so he wanted to argue with me about how the machines are safe or something like that. And I got lost in the moment. I forgot about my laptop. And so I ran back to get it, and I almost missed my flight by the time because I had to go back through security again after picking up my laptop. And so by the time I made it to the gate, the flight attendant was so upset at me. And moments like that, right? It wasn't like all day I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. No, it was only the couple of seconds that I was arguing with this physics professor about the dangers of the millimeter wave machine, right? Anyway, pray that I have fewer of those moments. Pray that I handle my chocolate intake in moderation. Pray that I regain my concentration. Pray that I regain my analytical skills. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum bum